You say currently there's difficulty for people working in the blockchain to get bank accounts. Is that based on fear? What do you think the root of that is?
I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go here, but if you Google something called Operation Choke Point, I'll just talk about this. There's a thing called Operation Choke Point that happened, I think it was 10 years ago. There was accusations that the Obama administration had cut off bank accounts for people, for example, in the gun, like their political opponents. There was a series of lawsuits, and then in the discovery process of the lawsuits, it seemed as if what was happening is that various banking regulators were putting pressures on the banks. And there's a whole kind of system that works behind the scenes where where it's not public, and like the Federal Reserve, the FDIC. Look, I mean, the banking system is very consolidated. So 2008, you had the financial crisis. Then you had this thing called the Dodd-Frank bill, which was meant to kind of rein in the banking industry. If you go to Yahoo Finance, you don't have to trust me, and look at the market caps of the top 5 banks, they've all gone up dramatically, and the banking industry has become much more consolidated. And the top banks have a special guarantee from the government that I think GSIBs is the word they use. It means that they're guaranteed to have their deposits insured, which is why you had this regional banking crisis with Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic and others, because they don't have that guarantee. And so there's this big kind of advantage the big banks have, which is they're guaranteed. So the banking, depending on who you talk to, the banking industry is just sort of like there's all sorts of ways in which the FDIC and the Federal Reserve can punish those banks. And they have these kind of risk scores for like who your customers are. And what ends up happening as an effect is like a company will get like a 500-page, hey, you're high risk. You've been flagged as high risk. You're not told why. Sometimes you're just fully debanked. We won't be your banking customer. Sometimes you're sent like a 500-page questionnaire that's impossible to answer, that's like a risk profile or something. But you don't get any feedback. You don't get this and that. And so it's very opaque. I'm not commenting on who's right or wrong here. I mean, it's frustrating these companies can't get bank accounts, but there's a whole separate kind of thread of political debate around, should the executive branch have this much power? Should these, regulators be able to decide these things, or should this happen more through like a legislative democratic process is another question.